friends, welcome to my channel. So today I really wanted to talk about a grape varietal that has origins in ancient history, and it's grown today in California, and the grape varietal is Primitivo. So I wanted to talk about Primitivo, specifically this Wilson 2014 vintage Primitivo, because this weekend I was in Sonoma with my family and we stopped by this winery and we had this wine. And when I started looking into it, I realized that this grape varietal has so much history and it's such a good thing to know about. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can see more about grape varietals and learn a little bit more about wine. Let me know in the comments below if there are any other varietals or wines that you're curious about, want to hear about. With all that being said, let's get started. 'Cause I can't walk away. So Primitivo is known primarily for being grown in Italy, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's known as this kind of deep, inky black grape. It makes these really deep, inky black wines. And it's known for being really high in alcohol. The one I'm going to be talking about today is 15.8% alcohol in 750 milliliters. That's one of the highest I've seen for a non-fortified varietal. Primitivo is also known for having incredibly strong tannins. And when I describe this wine and give a tasting note, I will definitely talk further about the tannins. So there's some controversy surrounding Primitivo, primarily because it's very closely related to the Zinfandel grape. And the wine laws in the United States and in Europe are slightly different. So in Europe, the wine laws dictate that Primitivo and Zinfandel are the same grape. And in the US, the wine laws dictate that Primitivo and Zinfandel are in fact two separate grape varietals. So there's definitely a lot of confusion. It depends on who you ask. And when I tasted this wine at the winery, they told me that Primitivo is a cousin of Zinfandel. Now, I know that in a lot of places they're considered to be the same grape varietal, but after having tasted several Zinfandels and knowing a thing or two about wine, to me they taste very different. And their tannin structure is different, their body is different, but there are some similarities as well. DNA tests also revealed that Zinfandel and Primitivo are actually cousins or clones of a Croatian grape called Klianek. Okay, I am totally butchering that. I will put the word here. So if you know how to pronounce it, please let me know in the comments below. So all in all, the two grapes are very genetically similar. It's kind of like first cousins. You are genetically similar, yet you're a little bit different. So grapes are really variable, and when you plant Primitivo and when you plant Zinfandel, their grapes, like their cluster structure, color, etc., are slightly different. So Primitivo itself as a varietal has been around for thousands of years, and there are a lot of really cool stories and kind of myths surrounding this varietal. The one that I found most interesting is that supposedly Primitivo is the wine that was served in the Last Supper. That's right, that's intense. If that's true, that's a pretty cool connection to some ancient history. I'll let you do the investigation as to whether or not that was the wine served at the Last Supper on your own. But I just thought I'd let you know that that is the rumor that is associated with Primitivo. Also, if you think about the name Primitivo, to me, like Primi, it sounds early, it sounds like the first grape ever. So that's another one of the rumors, that it was a grape varietal that's been around for so long that it was one of the first wines produced. Actually, Primitivo, Primi means first, so that means that the actual grape varietal actually ripens on the vine first. So it's one of the earliest grapes to be harvested during a harvest. So another piece of ancient history about Primitivo is that the ancient Phoenicians were the first to cultivate this grape. So they first planted it in Puglia, which is like the heel part of the boot in Italy. So I mentioned before that Primitivo implies that the grape ripens earlier. So in Italy, this wine is known to produce a ton of volume, really high alcohol. But a lot of New World techniques are actually being implemented into the strategy of Italian winemakers in this region, and it's kind of getting a reboot. Okay, so now let's talk about this specific wine. So I didn't open it right now. It's been open for about 2 days. As I mentioned before, I had it with my family. That's where I first tasted it, smelled it. I've had a lot of Zinfandel. Zinfandel is definitely one of my favorite varietals of all time, but I don't know that I've ever actually had a Primitivo. This might be my first. The puns with Primitivo are endless. I love it. So as I mentioned before, this is a really inky, kind of deeply colored wine. It has the same characteristic of Zinfandel in that it is kind of transparent. It's not very opaque. It's not like a totally purple, opaque wine. So because the tannin structure is so heavy and there's so many tannins, this is a 2014 vintage, meaning that the grapes were harvested, then the wine was made in 2014. So this wine in particular has seen some age. It's about 3 years old at this point. And you could definitely age it for another 2 or 3 because the tannins and the fruit is still there. And usually when a wine is kind of fruit forward, that means it's on the younger side and it can last for a little bit longer. So this wine definitely has some purple undertone, but there's a little bit of rubyiness, a little bit of like scarlet red. There's ever so slightly a ring of transparency, lighter color, more of that scarlet ruby color around the edge. That's how I know there's some age on it. Immediately it's like a punch in your face. There's tons of spice, black pepper, white pepper. I get a lot of raspberry. And now that this wine has been open for a few days, it's had a chance to kind of flower and open up a little bit. I definitely get more blackberry, but it is pretty fruit forward, but very, very spicy. This wine would go incredibly well with heavier dishes. So anything pasta based, anything meat based, heartier fare. And as we're getting into fall, this means that it probably is a good time of year to drink this, and you can definitely drink it over the holidays. Typically, Primitivos are around the $20 range. This specific wine is about $40, meaning that it's like twice the price of most Primitivos you can find. This is a really high quality wine, and I just wanted to talk about it quickly because I thought the history of Primitivo is so interesting and relevant that I wanted to share it with everyone. As I mentioned before, this wine is really high alcohol. It's 15.8%, 18% volume alcohol. It's where you start getting into fortified wines like brandy. So naturally occurring 15.8% is incredibly high, but Zinfandels as well will have higher alcohol. So this wine on the mouth, I definitely get a lot more of that fruit. I get a little bit more black cherry, blackberry, some raspberry, and definitely spiciness. But the tannins in this wine are insane. They're really sharp. They're really kind of in your face, rough. So the wine is picked in 2014. It's made, meaning that the grapes are crushed and then they're left to ferment. Then the wine goes into a big old French oak barrel. It's allowed to age for about 15 months, and then it's poured into the bottle where it's further aged. So it's softened a little bit, but not as much as it probably will. I would definitely let a wine like this kind of sit open for a few minutes, to let it for a few minutes, maybe for an hour plus, to let it breathe. Really let it open up. This wine might be worth decanting. So this is a kind of medium bodied wine. It's not like totally full bodied and fills your mouth with flavor, although the flavor does last for a long time after I've taken a sip. So Primitivo is definitely a wine worth checking out. I hope that you give it a try. If you like Zinfandel, definitely give Primitivo a try. You will for sure like it. And definitely as we go into the fall and kind of the holiday season, Primitivo is definitely a red wine to keep in mind. I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel on the way out if you aren't already. And let me know in the comments below any other wines that you're curious about and you want to learn a little bit more about. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Bye.